We are now recording.
Fine. Okay. We're all ready to go then, are we? Good. Okay. Now, do we have any apologies for absence?
I've just received apologies from Councillor Radley of Hart.
Okay.
He may turn up, but he may be a bit late, so he's given his apologies.
Okay, fine. Do we have any other apologies?
Chairman, can I butt in here at this point? It's Councillor Glenn, okay?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
I am running with two meetings at the same time here, one by Zoom and one face-to-face. I'm appearing as an objector at a regulatory meeting, which started exactly at the same time as this one. So when you see me going off, that's when I will be leaving this meeting. And then I'll come back again when I've done my presentation.
All right, fair enough.
So hopefully
I know the feeling.
I won't miss anything of the finance. Okay.
No. Okay. I mean, I understand the feeling. You know, I understand the situation. You've got a, if you've got a meeting for a couple of hours and you've got a presentation that might take 5 or 10 minutes, then obviously you, and it's important. Then obviously you want to, you know, juggle accordingly.
Thank you.
Okay. And so, any other apologies? I'd like to move on then to the minutes of the previous meeting, and I think we have a couple of sort of apologies there. I mean, one, I noticed the meeting went out. I mean, although you'll spot it's a lovely sunny day today, it's not July, so it's November. Apologies for the fact that it said July on the minutes for the date of this meeting. The other one is more weighty. It concerns the Natural England presentation that we had on the agenda last time. It was foregone for lack of time. Now we have the, it's been drawn to my attention that we agreed to have it at this meeting, and it's not on the agenda. The reason being that the person who was due to do it has moved on, and we don't yet know a successor. Now, I think it's very important that we have input from Natural England, and I don't think it's acceptable for this to slip any more than is absolutely necessary. So can I ask, please, that we keep in contact with Natural England, identify a successor and require from them, I think it would be reasonable within the first month of their starting to produce a report for us. Is that acceptable to the board?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I'm not hearing anyone say no, so we'll do that, because I'm very conscious that you know, we have a role to play, and it really is most important that we have all the necessary input to understand what's going on. Now, does anybody else have any other points they want to make about the minutes of the previous meeting? I'm just looking round for anybody with a hand up or anything. Councillor Darcy, Martin Darcy.
Yeah, sorry. I sent an email in which I suggested that the discussion that we had about responsible investment wasn't reflected in the minutes. It was a short discussion, I think, but nevertheless we had one.
Yes. Okay. Right. Okay. Yes, I'm aware that the last meeting did get somewhat telescoped. I think we were getting short of time towards the end. Now, can I just clarify whether or not there's been a meeting of the investment group since the last meeting?
Yes, there has.
Yes. Okay. Because I think this is probably you know, goes within the province of that group in terms of how we deal with our investments, and how we deal with our any associated strategies and anything. And I would just like comment on that from the from members on the investment group in terms of taking.
Can I start, Chairman?
Councillor Glenn.
That's all right.
Yes.
I totally agree with you. I don't want the main meeting being bogged down by what could be quite a detailed and a fine discussion about the finer points of ESG. And I think you're absolutely right that anything that about ESG that where people may have differing opinions need to be ironed out offline at our investment working party meetings. And if necessary, we'll have a special one for ESG.
Okay, thank
Totally
you for
agree
that.
with that, Chris. It's a huge subject that's got there, and the amount of stuff that's published on it these days is colossal. So it is something that needs to be taken offline.
Okay, right. Now, I just go to ask.
Sorry, Chair, could I just?
Yeah.
I don't disagree, but I just thought we were talking about the minutes of the previous meeting, and in that previous meeting, we did have a brief discussion about that. So I thought minutes should reflect the fact that we did have that brief discussion.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm happy to suggest that we amend the minutes to say that the discussion previously was brief,
Right.
and to go forward with the action that the investment group meet to discuss this topic, which is important. And I think it, you know, bearing in mind the direction of our investments, bearing in mind the overall purpose for which we're here, in terms of you know, the SANGs having been set up and you know, protecting the SPA and the rest of it, but also bearing in mind the climate situation, you know, and the changes that are being made to people's investment policies, which, you know, our investments, I think, you know, we need to sort of make sure that our investments are, you know, in the right place. So does that, would that approach satisfy everyone, that we're sort of taking it forward, but doing it in a way that takes on board how things are developing, with particular reference to climate?
Agreed.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is everyone okay with that? Good. Any other points on the minutes? Okay. In that case, I'm going to move on to item 3, which is Strategic Access Management and Monitoring Project, best known to us as SAM. And I think Ruth is here to talk about SAM. So I'll hand over.
Smashing. Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you very much. Yes, hello everybody. So I'm here to let you know what we've been up to for the last 6 months. I've got a lovely PowerPoint for you. So I shall share my screen and let you see what we've got. There we are. So can you all see that okay?
Yes, that's fine.
Yes, great. Okay. So as most of you know, I'm sure, I'm Ruth. I'm the project manager for the SAM project. Again, I am asking you to bear with me this time. I'm still struggling with long COVID, so I do get a bit croaky and a bit wheezy, but I've got my inhaler, so we should be fine. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we start. If I can ask people to turn their microphones off and perhaps their cameras off as well, that would be great. But do feel free to ask questions as we go along. So you can either raise your hand or pop it in the chat and I'll pick them up as we go through. So just to remind you that I'm a chartered landscape architect and I specialise in landscape management, and I'm also an optician. I'm here today with some of my colleagues. I've got Victoria Heaths and Dr. Daria down with me, so I shall hand you over to them for them to introduce themselves. Over to you, Victoria.
So hi, I'm Victoria Heaths. So I'm the team leader for the SAM project. So I joined the team as a year-round permanent warden back in 2016. And then I worked for the Sustainable Development team in Natural England, but I came back to the SAM team as team leader last year.
Good morning, I'm Daria Dadam. I'm the data analyst for the project. I joined the project just over 2 years ago, and prior to that I've worked for 10 years as a research ecologist at the British Trust for Ornithology, and my expertise is in large data set analysis and survey organisation. Back to Victoria.
Okay, so we'll start the presentation now. Next slide, please. So we'll talk about recruitment. Next slide, please.
So just to let everybody know that there is a little bit of a lag for where Victoria's based. So we've got about a little 6-second lag between me clicking this slide and Victoria seeing it, just to let everybody know.
Yes, thank you, Ruth. Yes.
Chairman, can I just can Victoria speak up or into the mic? She's quite faint.
Okay.
Can you hear me if I move forward?
Yes.
Yes, that's much better.
Okay, I'll do that. Okay, so here's a nice picture of the seasonals this year, and as you can see, they're looking very happy in the sun. Next slide, please. So the seasonals have left us now. So we did actually have 6 seasonal wardens from May to mid-July, but 1 warden left us in July. Louis Harrington Edmonds was successful in achieving a role with bug life after his seasonal role had finished. So the SAM team had actually been Louis's first role in conservation, and this was an important stepping stone in his future career. So the SAM team project facilitates these opportunities for many people and often results in a career in Natural England or with our partner organisations or elsewhere within the environment sector. So Louis and Zinlap, so both seasonal wardens this year, will actually be shown in a video at the Surrey Hills Symposium on Wednesday, the 23rd of November. So the theme is Thriving with Nature, how we can all protect, respect and enjoy our national landscape. So the seasonals filmed with Surrey County Council for their Countryside Code project, and this will be heavily featured at the event. So we would encourage you to go if you can. Some good news stories. So we interviewed for our permanent year-round warden role in October. So we're very pleased that Warden Ruth Papworth was successful in getting the role. So she was one of our seasonals this year. So of course we decided that 1 Ruth wasn't enough, so now we have 2. We had a very high caliber of candidates applying for the permanent warden role, and this actually shows the importance of the project and that it's highly regarded across the conservation sector. So our project is Gold Star standard, as you know. So we are recruiting a full-time year-round communications officer in line with our succession plans as agreed in the last meeting. So the comms officer job role is currently being advertised on our civil service jobs website, environment jobs and countryside job service, and we'll be interviewing for that in December this year. So the deadline is Monday, the 21st of November, so next Monday. And if you know of anyone who may be interested, please let them know. So information about this role is also on our website, and so your help would be appreciated in spreading the word. Next slide, please. So continuing with the staffing and recruitment. So we've also had interest from previous seasonal wardens that they'd like to rejoin the team again as seasonals in 2023. And the process for recruiting them is underway. So we're planning to recruit the equivalent of 6 seasonal wardens from the 1st of March 2023 to 1st of September 2023. Next slide, please. So I want to talk about Heath Week. So at the start of the summer holidays every year, the SAM team host Heath Week. So we put on engagement events across the Thames Basin Heath Special Protection Area to raise awareness of how rare, essential and how fragile the heathland is. So with the help of our partners, we hosted 27 events over the week, including fire awareness events, sensory scavenger hunts and nightjar walks. So the full list of events can be found on our website, and here's a few pictures from Heath Week this year. And this was all the 27 events that we had as well, and an example of how we advertised it on the right. Next slide, please. So this is our Heath Week graph. So it's the number of people spoken to and the number of leaflets distributed each day during Heath Week. So we spoke to a record-breaking 1,474 people overall, with Sunday and Friday being the busiest in terms of new interactions. So this is the most interactions we've ever had on a Heath Week to date. Next slide, please. Again, and our social media reflected this. So our social media reach had been very impressive, with a reach of over 100,000 across July. So this is 60,000 from Facebook, 40,000 from Twitter. So we realise there may be some overlap, but it's still the largest reach we've ever had on a Heath Week to date. Next slide, please. So these are Michael's nightjar walks. So these were as popular as ever. So they sold out very quickly. So Michael was kind enough to put extra ones on. This particular one was at Horsell Common. So it's called 3 Cheers for Horsell Common. And project manager Ruth even helped with one, and we managed to get her out of her shed. As you can see at the bottom of the screen there, we've got really good feedback from people. Next slide, please. Again, this is a couple of events that we ran. So butterflies and other things with wings, and also discovering nature with your phone. So as you can see here from the feedback, this was the only time that a mother was happy for her son to actually use her phone, his phone. Next slide, please. Again, this is another event, so Heath Week for beginners, and this is Michael pointing out a species here across the bog. That's why he's not walking in it. And again, we've had great feedback about that event as well. Next slide, please. So here we are at the Family Nature Day event with Hampshire Countryside Services. So a special thanks to them for running this event. So RSPB and Yateley Society were also in attendance. So we're really grateful for all our partners for their help and support over the very busy Heath Week. And Surrey County Council included us in their July newsletter, which has a readership of 180,000. And if you want to see any more pictures of our Heath Week, it's all on our website under gallery. Next slide, please. So these are our partners who hosted events. So we're actually already in conversation with our partners about next year's Heath Week. So this is the 24th to the 30th of July, 2023. And we are encouraging them to run more events for next year. So this is about Fire Awareness Week. So as a result of the devastating effect of wildfires this year on the SPA, so the SAM team, along with partners, have developed the idea of having a Fire Awareness Week in the Easter holidays next year. So this would be before Heath Week. So this is because in Heath Week this year, only 1 out of the 5 fire awareness events were actually attended by the fire service due to them attending wildfire emergencies. So families, and in particular children, were disappointed not to see the fire engines this year. So the SAM team, along with partners, wanted to respond to this issue. Our year-round warden, Tim, has also had the great idea of asking a local in the area to attend Fire Awareness Week next year with his vintage collection of fire engines, to which he's agreed. Fire Awareness Week will not be like another Heath Week because we don't have the capacity to make this event as large, but with the help of our partners, this should be a successful event. So this is a great example of how the SAM team can dynamically respond to issues on the ground and work with partners to resolve them and come up with exciting ideas that can actually help further spread vital information and education to the public. So we'll update you about how this went in the next JSPB meeting. So this is about events and partnership working. So we had a bird aware visit on the 10th of August. So within the mitigation community, the SAM project is considered to be Gold Star standard. And so bird aware were very keen to visit us. So they came to our offices in Heather Farm and presented their project to us, and the SAM team did the same. And then we took them on a walk around Heather Farm Sang, explained Sangs, and then onto the SPA. And we spoke about our recreational pressures and exchanged ideas and experiences with each other. So it was a very, very valuable day. And again, please. So Bird Aware is an award-winning project. We like the idea of all the awards they'd won and been shortlisted for. So now we have Warden Ruth, and therefore we have more capacity. This is something we can look into for the SAM project. Next slide, please. So these are some of the events we've attended. So a success story is that the SAM team hasn't done Halloween events before, but this year we managed to do it across all 3 counties. So we managed to cover the whole patch, even though there are only 11 of us. So in late October, we hosted the new Halloween Heathland event in Wildmoor, Yateley and Lightwater Country Park, which included lots of fungi and spiderweb spotting on a spooky nature trail. So we spoke to a whopping 171 people over the 3 days. We are now preparing for Christmas wreath making with Surrey County Council and Surrey Heath Borough Council, and we hope to repeat this wreath making across the SPA. And we participated in the Yateley, Blackwater and Derby Green Great Big Green Week, and also attended a sustainability fair at Yateley Green. So as a result of this, we were able to talk to a large amount of SPA users for the first time, because it's in a different situation, and get them excited to explore new green space on your doorstep. So these are a few pictures of our spooky Halloween events. So partnership working. So the SAM team has been hosting lots of pop-ups this year. So with permission from land managers during Heath Week, we spray painted dog poo to make a point about the sheer amount being left on site. So this was a very effective visual statement, particularly within the close proximity to car parks. So this allowed us to elaborate on the detrimental effect of eutrophication on the nutrient poor soils of heathland, the negative impact on invertebrates, and the risk of toxicariasis to humans. So we'll be bringing back the theme of poo pop-ups with Surrey County Council after listening to our partners about the increasing issues with dog fouling. So the first one will be on the 25th of November at Windlemere Sang. So over winter this year, we're going to be volunteering with numerous partners across the SPA. So we're already booked in or have participated with Hampshire County Council Countryside Services at Yateley, Surrey Wildlife Trust at Whitmore and Ockham, Horsell Common Preservation Society in Surrey, and Surrey Countryside Partnerships at Bullswater. So doing this means that we're able to establish a better relationship on the ground with our partners, and we also have access to their volunteer work stream. So this is where we're able to further promote our project's key messages here by handing out leaflets and talking to them. Next slide, please. So this is Bisley Litter Pick. So one of our seasonal wardens, Louis, so he organised a SAM team day litter pick at Bisley, and this is part of the SPA. So what happened is local residents had complained that the waste bins at the nearby prison were being left open and the contents were being distributed across the whole common. So Louis then raised the issue and organised for our bin bags to be collected once we'd done the litter pick. And it was really successful because as a result, the prison governor informed us of the plan to remove the flip-top bins and place them inside the prison fence line, employ a full-time litter picker for all external areas, and also net the large open container after each refuge tip. So this was an important team building event that had this excellent result. So because the wardens are predominantly solitary, so when we get together once a month for team building and to deliver this partnership event like this, it's hugely valuable. And in particular at Bisley, we were able to have a positive impact on the SPA, while simultaneously showing that we listen to local community and we work with partners to deliver improvements and spread awareness of the importance of the SPA. And that's a picture of all of us together doing the litter pick. I'll hand you over to Ruth now to talk about the strategy setting for 2023.
Thanks, Victoria. That's really great, really interesting, of course. So one of the pieces of work that we look at over winter is looking at our strategy for the next year. And so we have a review of the current year, if that makes sense. So we started the process a little bit already. So we looked at things like what went well, what could have been better, what would we like to know that we don't already know, and what should we focus on? As Victoria said, we've already identified some areas that need extra attention for next year. So we're aware of the pressure of wildfire, and we want to up our offering in that area so we can try and help mitigate that particular difficulty. And also the poo pop-ups and trying to have more of an impact on that difficulty. This next slide you would have seen before, of course, that is our current team plan. And our goal is for everybody in Surrey, Hampshire and Berkshire. I mean, that is a big goal. It's going to take us a while to get there. And part of the strategic planning over the winter is to work out how best to communicate and connect with everybody. And what we want everybody to do is to connect, respect and protect the heathland. We're using, as you know, engagement, education and monitoring, and our three key messages are very, very simply: keep to the path, be wildfire aware, and use those green spaces on your doorsteps. So I'm going to hand back to Victoria now just for a little while, and she's going to talk about AMP.
Thank you very much, Ruth. So the AMP meetings. So this is Access Management and Monitoring Partnership. So the AMP meetings take place quarterly, and they're usually held at Heather Farm with landowners, land managers and the SAM team. So they continue to be a success. So as a result of the project manager Ruth attending the Heaths conference earlier this year, she was thinking about what we can do to make AMP more valuable for partners to attend. So Ruth thought of inviting guest speakers, which went down really well. And she's been thinking about how to theme future AMP meetings and which guest speakers to have as well. So this the last AMP meeting was the 12th of October this year, and we had a guest speaker from No Fence. So No Fence is regarding fenceless grazing, where livestock wear collars and boundaries can be altered on a phone app instead of using a physical fence. So this went down very, very well with land managers. And what we do now with AMP is we're now hybrid, so to make it as well attended as possible. So 23 people came in the last AMP meeting from 17 different organisations. The next meeting will be January, and we're going to be focusing on butterflies and creating more habitat for silver-studded blues and greylings on the SPA. And partners are hugely interested in getting on board. So our guest speaker is Bill Downey. So he's the Surrey butterfly expert, and also someone internally from the local nature recovery strategies team in Natural England to discuss linking areas of fragmented habitat. The next AMP meeting will be fire related after the one in January, and this fits in with the Easter Fire Awareness Week. Another success story is that we now have a members only part of our TBH website. So this was an innovation designed for partners in response to sharing information about commercial dog walker licenses. So feedback was that it's actually very, very useful for partners to see the information. And also Surrey County Council are now looking to establish a similar page on their website as a result. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk to you about Heaths and Hounds. So Heaths and Hounds now has 1,447 members as of 15th of November. So Heaths and Hounds was inspired by Dorset dogs, and the initiative is from Nikki and Joe, even though they work part-time. So between them, they have this amazing Facebook page, lots of members. They run their walks, and they have their own uniform as well, separate to the SAM team. And we're looking forward to giving them much more support now that we have our new warden, Ruth. So as we know from the excellent input of data from the SAM team and Daria's analysis of the SANG survey results, the primary user of group of the SANGs are dog walkers, which is the appropriate audience. So Heaths and Hounds is a vital part of our project in talking to dog walkers. So talking a bit about SANGs. So when our Green Space on Your Doorstep booklet was first published in 2017, it listed 44 SANGs across Surrey, Hampshire and Berkshire. So the second edition of our Green Space on Your Doorstep booklet was published in 2019, which listed 62 SANGs. The third edition will list 81 SANGs, but at the moment there are 79 live SANGs listed, but we hope to make 81 by the time the new booklet is published. So that is a great news story. Next slide, please. So this is a picture of sorry, next slide. This is a picture of Joe with a couple of dogs. So the intense summer heat has meant that many dog walkers have been walking at 6 a.m. or 9 p.m. So despite this, Heaths and Hounds has been continuing to run group walks on the SANGs and running pit stops where safe to do so. So Heaths and Hounds had a Doggy Heath Week event with dog trainer Natalie Light, and she provided free advice to dog owners on topics such as improving recall, desensitizing dogs to stimuli such as cyclists, how to deal with excessive barking, and also how to socialize anxious and nervous dogs. And Heaths and Hounds had some lovely feedback regarding this event. And more organisations are planning to set up community dog groups as well. And more partners are coming to Heaths and Hounds to express an interest in doggy events, such as Surrey Heath Borough Council with their Poo, Pit Stops and Heart promoting responsible dog ownership at Edenbrook Sang. So Heaths and Hounds supported Wellesley Woodlands with a dog agility event in Heath Week, and Woking and Borough Council are in touch about a dog event on their SANGs as well. So it's getting very, very busy now with Heaths and Hounds, which is great news. I'm now going to hand you over to Ruth to talk about education.
Brilliant, thank you very much, Victoria. So that gives you a snapshot of all the amazing work that the Wardens have been doing in the last 6 months since we last spoke. And now I'm going to give you the same for our education. The Heathland Focused Education Programme continues to develop and reaching new audiences and receiving some really great feedback. From the 1st of January to the 31st of October this year, our Education and Engagement Officer, Michael, has had more than 3,100 high quality Heathland focused engagements with children and adults. Over this period, 90 sessions have been delivered, including assemblies, in-class lessons, on-Heath sessions, teacher training, careers talks and guided walks. 60 of these have been to a primary school-aged audience, and all sessions connect people with nature, Heathland and its species. The sessions introduce the audience to the threats that the habitat faces, and now everyone can help look after it. The following few slides highlight some examples of Michael's work within schools. So here we have a lovely project from Horsell Village School Council, where the Schools Council came out to learn about their local heathland. And as part of their community focus, they designed posters asking people to be wildfire aware. These were displayed on the notice boards, as you can see, and the school's Facebook post says, the children will share what they learned at school and help us think carefully about how we can protect these amazing heathlands. So what fantastic Heathland ambassadors the school council are going to be. A Year 5 class came out for a visit at Chobham Common to learn about their local heath. They were inspired to design posters to encourage people to help avoid disturbing ground nesting birds, and a selection of these amazing posters were displayed on the notice boards on Chobham Common. It's brilliant. After visiting Horsell Common, 3 Year 4 classes from Horsell Junior School created these amazingly colourful posters highlighting their favourite heathland species and the ways we can all look after this brilliant habitat. More children are going home to let the families know just how fantastic heathland is. Teachers and group leaders have been saying some very positive things about these education sessions, and children are being inspired by their local heathlands and connecting with nature. As you can see here, I've got some lovely feedback comments on that slide. And again, some lovely feedback. We are engaging children with their local wildlife, and they're loving it. Best day ever is a pretty good review from a young folk. Schools are really valuing what we're offering, and word continues to spread. We're getting schools coming to us and asking for sessions now, which is really great. In October, Michael participated in the Junior Citizen for the first time, and this involved him engaging with more than 650 children in a week about the dangers of wildfire and teaching them about being safe in the countryside. These events are a great way to engage with a large number of local children about one of our key messages. The plan is to attend similar events in Guildford and Woking in 2023. Wildfire education is covered in all of the sessions, so everyone that comes learns about the causes and the consequences of a fire. Children also find out about what to do if they discover a fire. We continue to attend fire service open days as well, of course, and we organise the wildfire awareness pop-ups and distribute our popular wildfire activity sheet. So we're continuing with all the wildfire awareness we currently do, but looking for ways to up our game in that area. Great links continue to be forged with local community groups, spreading our key messages and connecting people with the heathland. This group from Linkable comes out once a term rather, to help out with volunteering and learn skills to help them in the future. And not even a rainy deluge could dampen everyone's enthusiasm on this day. Our guided walks are providing people with valuable information about how to make good decisions for our ground nesters. And you can see there's a nice bit of comment from somebody that attended a guided walk. Another success story. The silver-studded blue watch returned for another year, and the public continued to keep an eye out for these fantastic butterflies to record. Michael facilitated a Surrey butterfly conservation monitoring visit to Ash Ranges, which generated some valuable data in an under-recorded area. And this silver-studded blue watch work feeds into some of the work we're doing with AMP to look at butterfly and butterfly habitat and conservation, see where we can help there to make things easier for the butterflies. Michael has also formed a Heathland Educators Working Group. It's been a great way to share experiences, knowledge and resources. And for Heath Week, they collectively produced a video to share just how inspiring Heathland is, and that video is available on our website. So that's about education, and now I'm going to hand you over to Daria, who is going to talk to you about the monitoring elements of things. Over to you, Daria.
Thank you very much, Ruth. I hope everyone can hear me okay. I'll be giving you an update now on the monitoring side of the project. In particular, I'll be talking to you about updates on wardening interactions, monitoring on the SPA, the car park survey we did in the summer this year, and then the second year of the SANS winter survey just starting, and then I'll be passing on back to Ruth to tell you a bit more about the bird survey and people counters updates. Next one, please. If we start with the wardening interaction, this graph shows you the number of interactions per hour during the summer seasons, also known as the peak season, from 2017 to 2022. These are the months between March and August, and are a very sensitive period of the year, as you know, because this is when the birds are breeding. We have been doing really, really well in terms of number of interactions. You can see on the right-hand side of the graph, these are the most recent months, and the number of interactions are clearly really quite high. I would like to draw your attention to the figure of July 2022, which is the one in the orange box, and compare it to pre-pandemic time. In particular, July 2019. You can see that not only July 2022 was a record month for number of interactions, but also if you compare it to what it was before the pandemic, it really highlights the fantastic work that all our wardens put in every day, going out and talking to people to disseminate our key messages. Next one, please. The SPA monitoring side I'll be talking to you today is primarily about the number of visitors to the SPA. These data are collected through automatic people counters, of which you can see an example in this picture. These are counters embedded in these poles, located generally on either side of a path or a gate. There is a beam in between the two poles, and every time someone breaks the beam, a count is taken. It's quite important to remember that the figures we get from these are not exactly equivalent to the number of single visitors, but rather the number of passes. If you think of someone coming down to the down this path into the SPA, for example, breaking the beam will count as one. But then if they go out the same way, breaking the beam again, it will be equivalent to 2 counts, but effectively it's just one person. So right now we don't know how many exact visitors we can relate to the number of passes. It's something that we can look into it. But however, next slide, please. You can see from these graphs here These are the traces of the data that we collect from the automatic people counters. The details are not terribly important. You'll have bigger pictures of this in the report, but briefly, each line is a trace from one of the people counter at a site. On the x-axis is months, and on the y-axis is number of passes. And you can see here, next one please, circled in the purple circle is the peak related to the pandemic months. So you can see here, this is quite a good point to make, that the people counters were picking up the peak in visitors that we could observe on the ground, meaning that the data that we get are really quite reliable in terms of showing what is really happening on the ground. So even though they're not exactly number of single visitors, it still is particularly good at being used for monitoring purposes and trends. So the take-home message from this slide is that indeed the automatic people counters are reliable, but also that if you look the tail end on the right hand side of each graph, these are the most recent months, you can see that the number of passes or visitors has not quite gone back to pre-pandemic level. And this is something that is quite important to bear in mind going forward in this presentation. Next one, please. So I've mentioned that these data are reliable for modeling, and this is what I've been doing. So I've modeled the data to understand the trend in visitor numbers. I'll be talking about visitor numbers to make it easy, but I'm always talking about number of passes. So I split the data into two subgroups. One is using all the data available, so from January 2016 to just now. And then I've also taken out the really peak pandemic period, so to speak. Or the details are again in the report. Here the dates are as a reminder for that. I've used the government decisions to implement restrictions or lift them to decide what was a really key pandemic moment or not. We appreciate that some people might believe that we're not quite out of it, some people believe that we are out of it, but statistically speaking, this is the decision I've made. Next one, please. Then I've used the data from all year round, so continuation from January to December, and these are some of the results. So if we take all the data available, so including the pandemic, the number of passes has gone up by 12% annually. If we take out the pandemic, this is just short of 11%. Next one, please. If we look at the peak season, so this is the summer season, March to August, again, quite an important period for the birds as they're breeding. You can see that including the pandemic years, the trend has gone up by just shy of 10% annually. And if we take out the pandemic, this goes down to about 6%. Next one, please. Then if we look at the off-peak, so this is the rest of the year, so September all the way around back to March, you can see that the two are quite similar. Considering the pandemic or taking it out, it's all about 11% annual increase. I must say at this point that the non-pandemic period result effectively equates to pre-pandemic. This is because I've been able to use the data only until February 2020, because afterwards, due to the restrictions coming on often during the winter months, the data set was too fragmented for the model to be reliable. So two things spring to mind looking at this. So the first one, I find it quite interesting that the off-peak rate of increase is higher than during the peak season. We'll look into why that might be, but obviously one of the possibilities is that during the peak season, our wardens, fantastic wardens, are out more. There's more of them. So one of the possibilities that they're doing, their job so well, effectively doing what we want them to do. And the second one, next one please, is that the positive outcome is that the lowest rate of increase is effectively during the peak season. Obviously, taking out the pandemic, we've just seen from the graphs, and we've all noticed that obviously the increase in number of visitors to the SPA during the pandemic is something that nobody could control. So I think looking at results outside of the pandemic probably are quite more informative of what in general is happening in the longer term. Next one, please. Obviously, we want to understand why there is this increase in number of passes or visitors. Next one, please. So we've come up with possibilities. This is something very much work in progress. We would really much welcome your feedback, your opinion on this. I'm just presenting here some of our thoughts. So the first idea is that this increase could be done to the same loosely speaking group of people, obviously quite large group of people nevertheless, but sort of group of people that have been using the SPA more over time. On the other hand, it could be that new people have been attracted to the SPA over time, or it could be a mixture of both. Next one, please. These are some of the processes that we think might be occurring. So it could be, next one, please. It could be something to do with a new behavior, for example, people acquiring a dog, therefore visiting the SPA more, or just having more free time. For example, working from home allows them more free time at lunchtime. It could be an existing behavior that has increased over time. For example, people have known the SPA, and now they bring the family along. So obviously that would increase the number of visitors. It could be that people have started a new outdoor activity, or they feel more the need to connect with nature, which in itself is fantastic. It's something we want people to do. And the final possibility is just that just more people have become aware of how amazing our SPA is, and obviously they want to visit more. And in itself, this is fantastic. So our aim is so to connect, protect, and respect the SPA. So in order to connect, surely people have to go to it, and potentially we might think that whilst the number of visitors surely is of great importance, but their behavior on it should really be just as important really as the respect part of our aim really comes into its own. And this is when our fantastic wardens really will play this huge role into disseminating our key messages, so that people can enjoy the SPA in a respectful way going forward. Next one, please. Some aspects to bear in mind, I feel, is, as I mentioned, I find it quite interesting that the off-peak increase was so high. So to me, it suggests that the reason for the overall increase has to be a year-round one. It's not just that the SPA is so wonderful in the summer, which obviously it is, but obviously people feel that the SPA is a resource all year round, something we need to look into that. And one way to look into that is the SPA visitor survey that is due to be carried out next year, and this will give us answers on how people use the SPA, how often, this kind of questions similar to what we've been doing for the past number of years, and this will help answer some of these questions. And finally, I'm in the process of running some site-specific analysis similar to what I presented, and just to shed some light on whether there are some site-specific differences, and that can inform our project going forward as well. Next, please. So obviously we've been looking at specific reasons for decrease, and one that comes to mind is the number of dogs. We've all noticed that the number of dogs have increased, and so I've been looking at data. This is a graph showing the average number of dogs per hour of normal wardening. From 2019. These are data collected by our wardens. When I say normal wardening, this is walking around the Heaths on normal wardening, so it's not pop-ups or specific Heathland hounds or anything that can kind of cause some kind of a bias. This is normal wardening. You can see in the blue bars are the average dogs during the peak season, and the orange ones during the off-peak season. You can notice that the blue bars don't seem to change very much over the years, while the orange bars seems to be heading up. Obviously 2021, 2022, there's the influence of the pandemic. During lockdown, we know a lot of people got dogs, and this is something, next one please, reflected nationally. These are figures taken from a website that clearly, these figures clearly show how the number of pet dogs in the UK, in this case, have gone up in the past couple of years. So this is something that we were looking at. At the moment, the exercise I've just shown is data visualization. There's no formal analysis, but it's something I will be carrying out in the next few months. Are there any questions at this point, Ruth, that you know of?
Right. Well, thank you very much. We've had a very interesting presentations on a number of points. I mean, it's good to see the events broadening out and more people being involved and more SANGs coming forward, and also on the education front. Turning to monitoring, thank you very much, because that is the key thing. Now, I noticed that a couple of hands up. First, we have Councillor Victoria Wheeler, and then we have Councillor Martin Darcy. Councillor Wheeler, please.
Thank you. I have actually put my questions in the chat, but I've just noticed that they only go to Democratic Services and not to the rest of the group. So I think if we start with the very last couple of slides that you've done, as we are all aware, Surrey Heath Borough Council reduced the free parking period from 2 hours to 1 hour for the Sang car park. Your team at Horsell were really helpful in writing to the council, but Natural England didn't support the view or comment on the view that this might have an impact on the common. So it is specifically about the impact on the numbers of Chobham Common since the reduction in the free period in the Sands car park, and whether or not there are any figures that we can get with that. The leader at the council at the time did say that they would review it should there be seen to be an impact on the numbers on the SPA. So that's question number one. Heathlands hounds, I just wondered how we're linking those with the fire service dog warden initiative, because as you know, we've got the fire dogs, for want of a better phrase, and I just wondered whether or not that could be slightly more conjoined. The relationship with partners, the Chobham Common Preservation Society are constantly dissatisfied with the level of engagement and have reported that there have been occasions when volunteers have arrived but the warden hasn't, and I just wondered how many times that had actually occurred to your knowledge. There's a huge group that are really keen to get out there and help you to remove the native species. The engagement with the public eye, I know that health and safety has gone mad and it's very hard, but the engagement with the wardens, you know, during my lifetime here, and I've only lived in Chobham for just over 40 years, so I'm very new in comparison to most of the residents that I represent. But the engagement during that period has definitely diminished, not increased. And then the other one, again, I'm sorry, does relate still specifically. I'm saying to Chobham Common, but it will impact across Lightwater and other areas that the SA pipeline touch, in that they've used the wrong stones on the paths, which means that the horses can no longer use them. So that is likely to increase the off-path usage, and lots of people who ride also have dogs with them. Also, the paths are much wider than they were before. And therefore, it seems unlikely that the heather will naturally regenerate or reseed in that areas. So I just wondered what impact this group could have in getting ESO to and their contractors to rectify this. There is, in some respects, it will bring the numbers down and therefore have a positive impact potentially on the SPA. But there is a lot of groups of people that have contacted me to say that the common is essentially unpassable, not walkable, and not a pleasant place to be. So I would be grateful for those 4 very simple questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Can we look at answers for those questions, please?
I can try to answer the first one about the car park charges. So my understanding is that the changes, at least in the past, happened kind of quite fast. So there were some charges introduced and then removed. So I looked into that because that's the one I'm aware of. And if that's not the one you
Sorry, no, that's not correct. So the
Okay.
charges have been introduced and they remain. So what's happened is there has been a reduction in the free parking period. So we've managed to hang on to 1 hour's free parking adjacent to the Sangs. Whereas before it was 2 hours. Now on the Sangs, it's an area that I can't say I regularly visited at this point because it's not passable, it's too muddy. But it is an area that I have previously regularly visited, and you would often get large professional dog walkers in there with 9 or 10 dogs that were off the leads. And if you're exercising that many dogs, you do need more than an hour. Very often they're out for longer, and they come several times a day as well. So it's to understand that. So it's gone from 2 hours to 1 hour.
Okay, so
What we
I
could
think here
do
we're
potentially-
talking about the effect on the SPA. It sounds to
Yeah.
me as though you probably need to raise this with the council in terms
I've
of
raised it
hours.
with the council, but the council won't respond until we have figures
Okay,
to
so
say whether or not there's been an increase in an
All
impact
right.
on the SPA.
Yeah.
If there's been no impact on the SPA, I've got nowhere to go with it.
Okay, can
Could
we
I
just
suggest that
continue
you
with
phrase it in-
Daria's answer, please? Thank you, because I think is there any more to say? Who's taking this, Ruth or Daria?
Yeah, I'm happy to suggest, actually, Councillor Wheeler, if you were to put the details of your request in an email to us, and then we can be sure that we can look into all the information that you require and see what we can provide. Would that be useful?
Yeah, that would be useful. As I said, I
Great.
have put all of my questions in the chat, so I wonder
Brilliant. Okay.
if Democratic Services could just forward them to you.
That would
Is
be
that-
brilliant. Yes, absolutely. I'm particularly interested in, we do work with the fire service and the canine dog patrol, and we can make sure we can explore that further and make sure that we're doing everything that we can with them. I'm interested in your comments about engagement with wardens on Chobham, and I would like to unpack that a little bit. And with the wrong stones on the path there, and the work that ESO are doing, making paths too wide, that will take some thought, but we can have a think about what we can do to help with that. Just to let everybody know, we do have another sort of 10 slides to go through with our presentation, and some of them actually do look a little bit, very briefly, in commercial dog walking. So that would be a little bit more information on that coming.
Okay, perhaps we could just, but yes, I think it's really important when people raise a number of points, if we can capture those, because, you know, obviously don't want to lose anything, and you know, it's you know, if it feeds onto other things. Now, can we then move on to Councillor Martin Darcy and then Councillor David Hilton? Yeah, okay with those, please.
Thank you. It's just a comment, really. I just wondered if it was worth looking at the census data to see how the human population had increased, because that might simply explain the 10% increase in visits, or the 11%. You might just have 11% more people.
Yes, that's an excellent point. These are data that we don't have at the moment, but we're looking into. We know that the SPA Vista survey 5 years ago, 2018, did provide us with a kind of increase in number of dwellings based on postcodes. So it's something that we are hoping that they might be able to do again, to give us an example of the increased number of dwellings. Yeah, we can look at other data sets. I find it quite difficult sometimes to narrow it down to the right area sometimes, but it's something that I can certainly look into there. But you're right, we need to understand the influx of people to the area to understand the causes behind increasing the number of visitors, for sure.
I mean, if you go to the census website, they have data broken down by borough councils. So you can easily get the figures for each borough council, if that's what you need.
Yeah. Great, thank you.
Sounds as though that would be useful for, you know, especially for looking at a longer term view, because we have, you know, we have been going for 15 or 16 years now, and I think it's important. I mean, that's at least 2 censuses under our belt, you know, and speaking nationally. So if we can now move to Councillor David Hilton.
Thank you very much indeed, Chris. Just a comment really, that your education programme is actually, whether it's on the Heath or in schools, is promoting the SPA. So I suppose in many ways shouldn't really be that surprised that we're getting more visitors. And it'd be interesting to have your comment on that. And I did know that Ruth said that I think she recognises that, and so what they're trying to do is manage behaviours.
Exactly.
The second point is perhaps a bit broader. Those of us who were involved in the drafting of the Thames Basin Heath delivery framework have absolutely no understanding of how the project would grow from a habitat protection for the protection of the birds to a biodiversity project, and which is actually, you can see, creating considerable added value. So it's one of those probably unintended consequences, but a very valuable one.
Yeah.
Excellent, thank you very much. That's a lovely comment. And yes, and we were, as we were saying in the team plan, we need people, we feel, to connect to the heathland in order to be able to respect it and protect it. And as Daria quite rightly pointed out, it's difficult to connect with the landscape if you don't visit it. So the education and awareness is part of what we're trying to achieve, and behaviour modification, as you were suggesting.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, does anybody else want to ask questions? I see we have a couple of hands up. Are they legacy hands? If perhaps we can just finish off the presentation, and then we do have to move on to other items on the agenda.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Here we
Thank
go.
you.
Are you ready, Daria?
Yes,
So go for the next slide.
Yes, thank you. We've also carried out car park transects for the first time in 3 years. Obviously, the pandemic did cause some problems. We conducted 7 transects from the end of June to the beginning of September. We feel we managed to cover quite well both weekdays and weekends. You can see here days of the week, half of them are the weekdays and half are the weekends, and particularly Sundays, and also covering all hours of the day, starting, for example, 7 in the morning, but also 6 o'clock at night. Next one, please. This is an example of part of the transect that the wardens in the car would carry out. Each point indicates a car park that they had to view. Ruth, do you want to start see if you can start the video? Well, yeah, great, thank you. We in previous years, how we did car park transects was that 2 wardens would be in a car, one driving and the other one noting down the number of cars and types of vehicles. This year we have gone a bit more technological with the use of dashcam that you can see here. Zoe shot this video when she was trying out the dashcams, and you can see that the advantage is obviously you have the staff that is needed. This might not work entirely, but we'll see. Anyway, what you can just see in the background there is coming up a car. And what is important is then the video captures obviously any vehicles parked in laybys and proper car parks. And then the video can then be viewed again at home and noting down all the cars. So saving time, because you don't have to stop every lay-by that you see to note down the number of cars. And also because obviously you can be by yourself driving rather than having a colleague with you next to you noting down. So we can probably stop the video and just go back to the presentation, Ruth. All you see is obviously the road and some cars encountered in laybys. That's just to make a point.
So I'll go to the next slide.
Yes, please.
Here we go.
And here are some of the results. This graph shows the number of vehicles per each of the transit dates. Next one, please. And the three peak ones are all Sundays. So expectedly, perhaps, the highest number of vehicles happened at the weekend. Next one, please. We also noted down the types of vehicles. Here is the dates on the x-axis and the number of vehicles on the y-axis, and each type is a different color. Next one, please. You can see that in most cases the highest one is the commercial vehicles, the grey bar. Commercial vehicles are effectively white vans that did not have any writings about dog walking. Next one, please. However, on 3 occasions, you can see that the orange bars indicating vehicles with bike racks were just as high, if not higher, than the commercial vehicles. And if you remember the previous graph, these 3 dates actually equates to the Sundays again. So again, it makes sense that during the weekend, people might have more time to take the bike out for a bike ride. Next one, please. And the final curiosity that I want to highlight is the number of vehicles of dog walkers. See in the blue bar and highlighted by the large blue rectangle. And you can see from the top that these happened only during weekdays and not during weekends. Obviously, this is not groundbreaking science by any means, but I find it very reassuring when the data I look at make sense, because I know that they are reliable and going forward for most formal analysis, that is certainly quite an important point. Next one, please. Finally, we started the second year of our winter visitor SANGS survey. Our fantastic wardens started in October this year, and we are targeting 78 SANGs, so this is 3 more than last year. We're using the same methodology that briefly is standing in a specific point, the same one as last year, for an hour, and asking people to answer some questions about what are the main reasons for being there, how long they've been visiting the site, how long they plan on being there, good points about the sites, all these kind of things. Obviously, I will report on the formal results at the next meeting. But briefly, we're also trying to increase the balance between to improve the balance between weekend visits and weekdays visits. And we're on the way to do that. So our great wardens have already visited 14 SANGs and counting, carrying out 48 interviews. We're also counting the number of people they see as a measure of over time, I'll then model this data to understand the number of visitors, changes, trends in number of visitors to SANGs, which is a piece of data that we are currently lacking at the moment. I'm not even calling them results, it's just curiosities here, but as mentioned by Victoria earlier on, the vast majority of interviewees were dog walkers, and just over half of the people said that they visit the SANG daily or most days of the week. So these are sites that are heavily used by dog walkers. And finally, the graph at the bottom there shows you that most people visited the SANG for a length of between half an hour and 1 hour. So really quite short visits by dog walkers every day. And this is the picture that we are getting at the moment. I'll pass it over to Ruth now to talk to you about the bird survey.
Yeah, so just very quickly to let you know that the tender processes are ongoing for the visitor survey and the bird data. So we expect the request to quotes to go out in 2023, and with the visitor survey being conducted in summer of next year, and then the potential new data collection in February 2024. With the people counters, I know last time we were talking about getting some new people counters, and that project is ongoing as well. This is a lovely photo of our senior warden Zoe actually downloading the data from an existing people counter. So this is what we need to do for every people counter: physically attend it at the moment, download the data, put it on the laptop, and then analyze it. And we do this every 3 months. We have reevaluated where we were planning to put some of the people counters, partly because one of them we identified as an MOD training site. So some of the MOD staff actually have battle simulations in that area, which of course is going to skew the data. So on reflection, we've decided that might not be the best location, and that what we're thinking to do is some of the people counters at the moment are quite a long way away from an access point. So sometimes Zoe or Mike has to walk for 15 minutes or so in each direction to get to the people counter. So it would make perfect sense if we were to replace those with the satellite connection ones, where we get automatic access to data. So we shall let you know how that goes as we go through. And then just a reminder that this is our plan, this is what we try and do, and we gather inspiration and thoughts from wherever we can. We went to a mitigation meetup with the mitigation community last weekend in Kent, and lots of lovely ideas came out of that. And it is interesting, as Victoria was saying, that we are considered to be the gold standard. So thank you very much for setting up such a brilliant framework, and we do our best to deliver it. We've got a few different groups coming into existence, if that's the right word, near our patch. So the RSPB are started a Western Thames Basin landscape partnership, and we're liaising with them to see what we can help with and where we can sort of cross-pollinate ideas. We've got quite a good model, and it's rather than people reinventing the wheel, it's something for people to build on. Within Natural England, there is also an initiative called Heathlands Connected, which has just started, and that's sort of the Surrey Hills, Surrey Downs area, where the heathland is, and we're helping that project get off the ground as well where we can. And that's the end of everything we wanted to say. So thank you very much for your kind patience and listening, and I shall end the slideshow, I think.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
Right. Well, thank you all very much for pulling that together. A lot in that presentation, but then a lot is going on. I think things are moving in a very positive direction. I think it is. I think that having events spreading over a wider time than just the summer is, I think, useful in terms of engagement. The more technological ways of counting people is very useful. And I think also when you come on to things like the number of SANGs we've got, and it's increasing all the time. It's and I think, you know, it's all very important in terms of in terms of the work that this is all in place to deal with, which is to protect the ground nesting birds, and it's different conditions that affect the different species, and So it's that's really why it's all so important. And I would say that, I mean, some of the events I would recommend to people that if you have the chance to go, if you see an event being promoted, then go along and have a look and get involved. I mean, a little while ago did the night jar walk, and that was very interesting. It was you could see just to hear how just to see things that you wouldn't actually see on a normal walk or anything. Chance to see it all, really. So thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions or anything any points they want to raise, or are we ready to move to the next item? Okay, all right, well, thank you all very much for that. So we're going to go on to item 4 now, which is the Thames Basin Heaths. That's the project financial update, and this is from Jenny Wadham from Hampshire County Council. Thank you very much, Jenny.
Thank you, Chair. Hopefully you can all hear me okay. It's always difficult to follow Natural England's presentation with a finance update, but I'll do my best to pick out the key highlights for you. So it's the usual financial update with the forecast position for the next 3 financial years, which takes us up to March 2025. As usual, we'll have the update from the investment working group to follow after this, and then the presentation from Arlene Close as the financial advisor. So I won't touch too much on the investments as part of this. So just the key highlights then for the current financial year, so 22-23, we are forecasting net income of £2.5 million, and that's broadly split £3 million income with just over £500,000 expenditure. Looking forwards to the following 2 financial years as well. So across those 3 financial years, we're expecting total net income of £7.5 million still to come in. As always, we caveat that slightly with it's obviously a forecast. It's based on the tariff income projections from the partner authorities. What I would say is we have included a cautious investment return, if you like, of 4%, and also bank interest. People will all be well aware of the rates going up and up at the moment. So we're basing it on just over 2.25%, which was the rate at the start of the financial year. The main focus of this report really is taking into account that we're now edging to the end of the tariff income period. So we are still forecasting to get tariff income receipts until the 28-29 financial year, but we are starting to get to that phase where that income will stop. So we need to make sure we have sufficient money coming in from our return on investments to ensure that we can continue the project in perpetuity. So just a few measures that we have to keep an idea of that. So the current projections are still that our total tariff income across all the years will be higher than the figure that we'd originally included within the business plan back in 2010, potentially earlier. And after the slightly slow start that we had, and also taking into account the current exceptionally high rate of inflation, I think broadly we can say that expenditure is in line with the business plan. So a good sign that the financial sustainability in perpetuity is on track. I'm just going to pick up the 21-22. We've said that 93% of the expenditure for that year was covered by dividend income and interest received rather than tariff income. For 22-23, that forecast is that it will be 69% covered by that investment income. However, as I've said, we have taken quite a cautious approach to the dividend and interest receivable, so that percentage could increase. And we are still expecting that for next financial year, that will be covered, the expenditure will be fully met from the investment income. Do just need to add a word of caution to that, obviously the costs each year are continuing to go up and up and up, so we can't have our investment income standing still. We need to make sure that continues to grow to offset the inflationary impact on costs. But as I mentioned a little bit earlier, we are still expecting tariff income receipts to come in up until 28-29, which will help us to keep building up the investments that we've got. The maintenance fund, as you'll see from the report, has been kept at the balance of £1.5 million. Broadly the equivalent of 3 years. Obviously that's slightly less than that now with the impact of inflation, and that's to safeguard against the impact of any temporary downturn in income so that we can avoid being forced into selling the investments that we have. So a very prudent approach there with a sensible contingency. The endowment fund started the year with approximately 15 million, just under 8 million held as investments, and just under 7 million pounds as cash. Although, as you'll probably recall, we did have just over 5 million pounds of investments pending that have been authorised by the board to make, but we were still in the process of opening various accounts to make those investments. So it would be projected £2.5 million income for this year. The cash balance within the endowment fund, after taking into account those pending investments, is expected to be 3.6 million by the end of March 2023. And looking forwards for a further 2 years, that cash balance could potentially rise to just under 9 million by March 2025. So overall, just to finish with a very quick conclusion, I think the financial position is looking really quite positive. That does assume that the currently high rate of inflation we've got is just a blip and will go back down recently. Obviously, the higher the inflation, the more income we need to be generating to offset the costs going forwards. But I think the board can take confidence that the partnership is definitely on course to achieve the financial aims of maintaining that financial sustainability in perpetuity.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much, Jenny. I see Councillor Glenn joining us with that. Kind of far away with any points or questions, please.
Was that to me, Chairman, or was that to everybody?
Yes, that's yes. I saw you come on screen. I wondered if you had any questions.
Well, no, I haven't. That was way. I was going to lead Jenny into this, but obviously I don't need to do that now. I think you've probably heard exactly what we've been doing on the IWG. Is that correct?
The investment working group paper is the next one, Councillor Glenn. So I've just done the overarching financial update now. And we've just asked the questions, and then it will be the investment working group update with your introduction to the state of
Okay. Okay, I don't have any questions of Jenny, because basically I know what's going on.
Right. Okay. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions there on this item? Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for that presentation. Perhaps if we now move on to item 5, investment working group update. So over to Councillor Jonathan Glenn.
That's just terrific, because I've got to get my computers up and running again.
Yeah.
I'd be grateful if Jenny could kick this off. What I do know is that we've actually had, I think, 2 meetings. We are aware that there's more money that could be invested. We have had long discussions about that because the climate. The business climate has changed quite a lot. I'd like to really remind everybody that the reason we started investing money was because we had this long period of very, very low interest rates, and it was deemed correct that we should go into very prudential and low risk investments, and that's when we brought in Arlene Close, who in my opinion are doing a good deal. But since then, interest rates are now climbing. We don't know really how far they're going to climb. And so I would put it to the committee that there should be a robust debate as to whether money should be left in cash for the moment, because interest rates are going up and we will be getting interest from our cash balance, even although inflation that may be higher than that, but that shouldn't go on forever. Or whether we take the plunge and invest the balance that Jenny has talked about. And as far as I'm concerned, that is where I think any debate should be focused. And I'm happy to open this up to Jenny to kick this off.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Yeah, so the report, very much the standard format, so much of the information will be very familiar to board members. I think it's important to keep it there as a reminder and for information purposes. I will touch very quickly on the admin type considerations. So we did discuss at the last board that we appointed Councillor Darcy as the third member to the investment working group. We also, the board confirmed that they did wish to continue with Arlen Close as financial advisors for the year ahead, which runs from 1st of December onwards. But I'm just going to move really quite swiftly on to the investments that are set out in tables 1 and 2 of the report. So you'll see from table 1 that a total of £11.7 million has been invested to date. And those are the amounts that are actually invested rather than the market values now, which Arlen Post will update us on very shortly. Since the last meeting, there have been investments made in the Energy Global Dividend Fund and also the Argon Diversified Monthly Income Fund, which was some of the ones that were pending. There are still, as you will see in table 2, £4.2 million worth of investments that have yet to be made, where we are still waiting to open the accounts, one of which has not been opened actually. And we've discussed previously the practicalities that exist with Hampshire County Council investing on the board's behalf and how it can be quite a task to get some of these accounts open. It is worth saying that given the current financial climate, as Councillor Glenn has touched on, bearing in mind that there are still these pending investments, the investment working group did go to Arlen Close and ask them to review their advice relating to those pending investments and whether it's worth still pressing ahead with those or potentially changing, which Arlen Close will talk through shortly. We also have within table 3 of the report the cash balance of the endowment fund, the projected cash balance at the end of the year, which mentioned in the previous report actually, it was £3.6 million. And again, the investment working group have asked Arlen Close to make some recommendations in relation to that projected balance by the year end. I would just remind everybody of the practicalities of Hampshire making the investment on people's behalf. So that is set out in the report in paragraphs 35 to 44, that everyone will be very familiar of, because I think we've had it in there for several reports, possibly several years now. Finally, at the end of the update, in table 4 and also the graphs in appendix 3, we look at the usual financial modelling scenarios that look at the potential financial sustainability of the product going over the next 80 years or so. And we are, that's a certain device going off, we're continuing to show that with a 4% investment return on average and an average 2% rate of inflation, the funds would continue in perpetuity. So beyond that 80-year period that we look at. Obviously, that's based on some very forward-looking projections, so we always need to take that with an element of caution, but it gives us an indication.
So, sorry, Jenny, to interrupt. I'm getting 1 or 2 messages that things are that you seem to be the microphone. I don't know if it's the microphone or anything fading away. Now, just something I'm conscious of is that we have an item 5 investment working group update, and then we have an investment update. In between those is item 6. Now, are we getting to the stage where we're really talking about item 7 material, and perhaps we should move item 6? I ask. We just.
Chairman, if I might put, I think I was having a problem hearing Jenny too, and I didn't butt in, and I should have, but I'd only just got back from another meeting, and I thought it might be my computer. Okay. If people have not heard what Jenny has said, and I'm sorry, this will, I would suggest that she just goes through the bullet points of what she's just said so that we can hear it.
Okay, now does that go into fit with item 5, or should we be moving item 6 and going on to item 7?
To be frank, if everybody's happy with the fact that we've had meetings and they think we've done a pretty good job, which hopefully they do, I think it's important we find out what Arlen Close have got to say. And I think that's probably where people really want, what people want to hear.
Okay. Shall I will therefore move item 6, exclusion of public and press. Is that seconded, please? Thank you. Everyone okay that we move to resolve the public press and public be excluded due to disclosure of exempt information under local section 3 Paragraph 3, Part 1 of Schedule 12AA of the Local Government Act 1972. It's information relating to the financial or business affairs of any particular person, including the authority holding that information. Everyone okay with item 6?
Agreed.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Okay. Item 7 then, investment update. And if we could just, if